take a look at this Rahul Yatra factor. And I'm doing this on 2024 Lok Sabha leads pasted onto Assembly, by the way, which Nalan thinks is the way to go, because he thinks this will be similar to the 2024 Lok Sabha results and not so much the 2020 election. Let's look at the impact of the Rahul Yatra, if at all it's going to be felt. 183 constituencies, but look at the numbers. The NDA still, out of those 183, is still leading in 122. The India Alliance only in 43. And look at the difference in the vote share. In a state where talking about 1% can make a difference of 10 or 15 seats. Last time around, the difference between the two alliances was less than 1%, and yet the NDA eked out. There is a 11% gap. So my point is, will it fall exactly the way it happened in 2024 Lok Sabha? Maybe not. Certainly not, because Mr. Modi is on the ticket, and I think that's a big factor. But if you were to apply this back to how it was in the 2020 Vidhan Sabha, along with that same Rahul Gandhi filter, then the numbers change. Then it's much closer. Look at this. The difference in vote share is barely 1%, a little over 1%, and the difference in seats is down to 30. Is not the same as what we saw in 2024 Lok Sabha. So the question is, which way will this verdict fall? Will it fall somewhere in between 2020 Vidhan Sabha or 2024 Lok Sabha?
No, and to open up to close a 11% vote share gap, it's not an easy ask. See, look, if you look at the 2024 numbers that you put, look at that vote share gap. It's 11% vote share gap. Now, in Bihar, you have these cases, you may have vote share, but you may not end up with seats. That's also there, that votes could be concentrated on certain seats and not spread all across.
There was a vote share gap in 2019 Lok Sabha, but Tejasvi closed that in the Bidhan
in 2020.
In 2020.
Yeah, so I think the critical difference there is, when people are voting in the Lok Sabha, it's for, I'm choosing the Prime Minister. I'm voting for or against Modi, right? Whereas in the Vidhan Sabha, that's not quite the case.
Yeah. I think across the country, you see this difference in the way Lok Sabha voting turnout happens.
Karnataka is a classic example. And that's true.
Here, very clearly, when it comes to the Assembly, the RJD pulls up the alliance a bit. Yeah. And when it comes to the Lok Sabha, because of the NDA factor, the Prime Minister factor, they are able to do much better in the Lok Sabha election.
In fact, this is the 2019 one. I projected this on to 2019. In fact, it's the LJP that's doing better than the BJP when you talk about the 2019 numbers. Sorry, the JDU, which is doing better than the BJP when you talk about the 2019 numbers. But I think ultimately this election will fall somewhere between the 2020 Vidhan Sabha, as we saw here, and the 2024 Lok Sabha, because the alliances are pretty much the same, even though the people they're choosing, one election is for Prime Minister, the other election is for Chief Minister. But this is on the Rahul Gandhi Yatra factor. This is how the map is right now. In about 30 minutes, we will start getting the little pockets getting filled up with either saffron or green or India Alliance. So Rahul, let me start with you. We've talked about the two biggest factors everyone thinks is going to influence this election. One is women, the other is youth. Which of these two do you think will prevail or will dominate the discourse of this election?
See, on women factor, we know quite more than we know on the young factor. One, we know that women have largely voted for Nitish. Two, we know that the gender turnout has been really high, right? So gender gap is also strong. And women also make half of youth population, right? So given that, I think the impact of that vote is going to be much more. The question is whether that vote will keep the results around 2020 mark or that result will keep around 2024 mark. And that's one of my sort of concerns with the exit polls. If exit polls have not waited for differentials in gender turnout, then the numbers they are estimating is conservative. And
so you're saying it'll be much more than 130, 140?
Because if women are coming out in greater numbers and they are more likely to vote for a party, if you don't weigh for that in your vote share data or vote estimate data, it will not show. So that's why you're seeing the vote share gap in some polls is around 4%, 5%.
Yeah.
But the seats they are showing is 120, 130.
See, when certain pollsters say youth and youth are voting for Tejasvi, are they saying that youth male and female? Or are they saying youth only male? Because the dipstick analogies or focus group analogies, if I may say, when our reporters have gone on ground and they have said, women are saying, I can go back home at 10. My daughter comes back home at 10 after work and she's safe. Now that daughter is a youngster. She's youth. Now who's she going to vote for? And has that been factored in pollsters when they are doing these dipsticks? Because we said no, mahila is spread across age groups and castes and this one social strata.
I think, as Rahul said, there is some element of clarity which is emerging on the way the mahila vote is likely to go.
Yeah.
And for a variety of reasons, it seems to be favoring the NDA. If you look at the youth vote, and I concede the point that half that youth vote is women, but if you look at the other half, the expression in the media that the Gathbandhan may be the beneficiary of this vote, I think there are important question marks there, because I go back to my earlier point. If the youth are worried about issues of employment and the like, who are they looking at in terms of being able to solve that problem?
Who do they trust?
Yeah, you say the trust quotient.
Yeah.
And there I believe it may well be, and we'll get to know in the course of today, it may well be that that youth vote also to a certain extent may have moved towards
So
the
then
NDA.
in that case, then does this then become a runaway election? Will this then become a runaway election if they say that the trust factor, yes, unemployment is an issue, who do I trust?
The polity, I feel that is now smarter than we think them to be. So I feel like if there's a party that is making promises of jobs, for instance, but there is no backstory of how these jobs are going to be created. Like we saw this after the Karnataka win, the Congress Karnataka win, that you made so many promises, you couldn't live up, like there was a dent on your exchequer. So this becomes a big problem. Our polity is smart. So then are the women across age groups thinking that we'd rather have cash in hand, make our own investments like bakri or, you know, some other farm animals, sewing machines, makhana, you know, farming, whatever it is that, are they thinking, do they have more confidence in what they are going to do with that money?
On this mahila voter thing, you know, again, I'm plotting it on the 2020 result. So we have those constituencies, and more than half the number of seats in the state where women have outvoted men by a percentage of more than 10, which means for every 10 men, there are 11 women who are voting. 124 of those constituencies, the NDA won 76 at 39% vote share, and the India Alliance got just 42 at 36% vote share. Remember, overall in the state, the vote share difference was less than 1%. But here, the vote share difference is more than 3%. So this is a huge factor, and this is a JDU vote. A lot of the JDU seats were on the back of the women vote. Today, we'll again try and plot and see on these 124 seats where women outvote men, by how much and who are the beneficiaries, politically speaking.
I want to make a couple of quick points on this. We mapped the ratio of women's seats won to overall wins.
Yeah.
And if you look at the last 3 or 4 elections, there is a difference. If the NDA is much higher than India, as you are showing in the magic wall, but within the NDA, there is a qualitative difference between JDU and BJP on the mahila factor. So if you look at the ratio of women's seats won to overall seats, JDU in 2019 won 65% of those seats. In 2020, 55%. In 2024, 55.6%. The BJP's ratio in comparison was around the 32% mark, right? So the JDU's percentage of women voter is significantly
if you look at the
higher than
2020
BJP's, and that's
Vidhan Sabha projections, the BJP had 20% of the votes, the JDU had 4% less. And in terms of the BJP actually pulled more seats in the 2020 elections.
That's true. But what I'm saying is that that's because of the way the seat share is done and so on. But I'm saying that in terms of the seats which JDU actually won out of those, because the concentration of vote is there. So their percentage of ratio is much higher.
There's another dynamic this time around. We are discounting the rural advantages that the Kisan and the rural voter and the rural dweller has got. 2 parts. One is this whole corn, makai, because it's being used for the production of ethanol. So when I had a chat off record with somebody within the ministry, and they said that ethanol production, the sourcing has been more than upwards of 15 to 20,000 crore rupees, and it could be close to 40,000 crore rupees worth of sourcing of makai for ethanol production from Bihar. Then the makhana part, the fox nuts part, that makhana board, creation of the makhana board, organizing that, and also the relative cost increase of makhana because of it being nationalized and internationalized. Is that not going to come back and help and pay dividends to those who facilitated it? In this case, Modi Nitish or BJP JDU.
It will. I think the makhana move was a big move by the Modi government. It's going to help them. That's what the ground feedback also that the BJP has. But Anand, I'll tell you one thing. See, in every election, there is one domineering topic. I remember Karnataka election, DK Shivkumar came and put that LPG cylinder right in the middle of the Congress office and said, because LPG cylinder was 1,200 rupees. I think this election is the 10,000 chunav. Woman factor is a big factor. 10,000 rupees, actually people have got it. You know, it's gone in the bank accounts of people. When I go to the ground, what I feel that women of the ages 30 and plus, 35 and plus, are totally siding with the JDU, because not only have they got the rupees 10,000, they also know the 2005 pre-era. They have seen that as children, you know, these girls who could not get out of the house, could not go to school safely. Yes, the young woman voter, the 18 to 25, 18 to 30 voter, that also is struggling because of unemployment. You know, they do say that jobs Nitish ne kuch nahi kiya 20 saal mein. But their families, their mothers would tell the daughters that, look, नीतीश के अंदर जॉब नहीं मिला, बट रिमेंबर जंगल राज वापस आ जाएगा, तो आप घूम भी नहीं पाओगे।
18 to 30 है, वो तो 20 साल का जॉब है ही नहीं, उनको तो 18 अभी 20 साल 4-5 साल में
these are the women I'm seeing stepping out of college, you know, at 20 years, they are not getting jobs in Bihar. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But they also remember the old times that you're not able to even roam safely in Bihar. I think that is a big factor.
Was that the bigger challenge, the fact that industrialization of Bihar in terms of bringing industry, manufacturing and all of that, will that be the next promise, or will that be one of the first things that if it's a pro-incumbency vote that the incumbent will do?